Erev Tov Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Sheviit. We're up to Perek Yud Mishnah Zayin. Today's Mishnah should be Le'Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai Meluchato Began Eden Amen and L'Abdi ben Chaim Mechaim for the Refuah Shelema of Yonatan ben Avram betoch Shar Cholei Yisrael. We know, Rabotai, that the laws that apply to land differ in a number of ways from the laws that apply to movable possessions. We're going to see regarding contracting Tumah, regarding how to acquire it, transfer ownership. The Mishnah today is going to discuss whether certain movable objects that rest on the ground have the status of land or of movable possessions with regards to Pruzbul and other laws. The Mishnah says, Kaveret Vorim, a beehive that rests on the ground. And Farshim explain, we're referring to a beehive that rests on the ground permanently, because if it were to be attached to the ground, there would be no doubt that it would be considered land regarding all the laws. So Kaveret Dvorim, a beehive that rests on the ground. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Harei Kekarka. Rabbi Eliezer says it is considered as land and must be acquired with the methods used to acquire land instead of the methods used to acquire movable possessions. The Mefarshim explain, in order to transfer ownership of something from one person to another, you have to perform a kinyan, an act of acquisition. Different acts are needed to acquire different types of things. Certain acts can be used to acquire movable possessions, while other acts must be used in order to acquire land. We're going to speak about this more, B'ezrat Hashem Bli Neder, in Masechet Kiddushin, chapter 1, Mishnot 4-5. In any event, Rabbi Eliezer says you have to acquire a beehive that rests permanently on the ground like you were to acquire land. The Chotvin Aleh Pruzbul. Similarly, if a debtor owns a beehive, we can write a Pruzbul based on it, just as if he owns land. It cannot contract Tumah if it is in place on the ground, just like land cannot contract Tumah. And the Mefarshim explain, if it's in the place where it is kept on a permanent basis, it cannot contract Tumah. However, if it's moved or it has no permanent place, then it could contract Tumah. And someone who removes honey from it on Shabbat, from this beehive that's resting on the ground permanently, he is liable. He has to bring a korban chatat for uprooting something from the ground. The Mefarshim tell us, we know the melacha of harvesting forbids uprooting something on Shabbat from the place where it grew on the ground. Rabbi Eliezer derives from a pasuk in Sefer Shmuel Aleph, chapter 14, pasuk 27, that honey in a beehive is considered to be growing there. Therefore, removing honey from its beehive is detaching an item from the place where it grows, and that would be a violation of harvesting. But the sages disagree. They say, a beehive is not considered as land, but as a movable possession, and therefore it's acquired with the methods that are used to acquire movable items. Then likewise, we may not write a pruzbul based on it, since it's not considered land. It can contract tumah even if it is in place, since movable objects can contract tumah. And someone who removes honey from it on Shabbat would not have to bring a korban chatat. And the Rav tells us, the halakha does not follow Rabbi Eliezer, the halakha follows the Chachamim. That is Rabotai Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet continues, Hamachzir chov b'shviit. If a debtor tries to repay a debt after Shemitah has already canceled it at the end of the 7th year, the Rav tells us you always have to wait till the end of the 7th year. Now, if the debtor tries to repay a debt, Yomar lo mishametani, the creditor should tell him, I cancel the debt. Amar lo afal pi ken yikabel mimenu. If the debtor says, nevertheless, I wish to pay you, the creditor can accept the money from him. Shenemar, because the pasuk says in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 15, pasuk 2, V'zeh dvar shmita. This is the matter of the cancellation. Now, devar could literally mean this is the word. The Chachamim say that this phrase teaches us that the cancellation is fulfilled by the word of the creditor saying that he cancels the debt. On top of that, if you notice, the pasuk uses a singular form. It says, Zed Divar Shmita. This is the matter. I'm sorry. Yes. Zed Divar Shmita. This is the matter instead of these are the matters. That indicates to us that Rav says that the creditor only has to say it once. Once he says this, if the debtor insists on paying, the creditor can accept the money. And now that we mentioned a drasha like this, the Mishnah is going to continue giving us a similar drasha regarding the law of a person who killed someone, God forbid, unintentionally, that we know such a person is exiled to a city of refuge, what we call Arei Miklat. The Chachamim explained to us in the Gemara Masechet Makot, chapter 2, that a number of cities throughout Eretz Yisrael and the Transjordan were designated as cities of refuge. A person who killed unintentionally, God forbid, under certain conditions, was exiled to one of these cities, and he could not leave until the Kohen HaGadol of that generation has died. So the Mishnah says, Kayotze bo, similarly, If an unintentional killer was exiled to his city of refuge and the people of that city wanted to honor him, he must say to them, I am a killer, I do not deserve your honor. If they tell him, nevertheless, we want to honor you, he can accept the honor from them. Because the pasuk says, again in Sefer Dvarim chapter 19, pasuk 4 uses the same expression. This is the matter of the killer. Now we said Dvar literally means this is the word. So again, it's alluding to the fact that the killer needs to only say his status once. Once he did that, if the townspeople insist, he may accept their honor. How do we know once? From the fact that it says Zed Devar. This is the matter instead of the plural of these are the matters. So all he has to do, the killer has to say what his status is. Once he did that and the townspeople insist to honor him, he can accept their honor. And that is in Rabotai today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.